Welcome to the U.S. House of Representatives Members Overview. During this video, you will learn how the many pieces of your legislature fit together and about the tools available to you as a member. Every time you log into LegSim, you will be brought to your desk. This is your home page, and from here you can access nearly every part of the simulation with just a few clicks. Should you ever get lost, clicking on the LegSim logo at the top of your browser will always bring you back to your desk. But before I talk more about the desk, let's look at the bigger picture. The key to success in LegSim is understanding the natural flow of the legislative process. LegSim mimics the real-world Congress as closely as possible, so the more you understand that system, the more you understand LegSim. What we will cover in this video is how LegSim maps to the real world. Legislation is submitted by individual members to the floor via the Submit Legislation tool. Here you can draft the text, provide supporting arguments, and identify issue areas related to your proposal. Once legislation is submitted to the floor, it is made available by the clerk. Think of the clerk as your legislative librarian. Anytime you need to know something about legislation or a member, you'll want to start at the clerk. Legislation is then referred to a committee by the Speaker of the House in consultation with the leadership. You can find the members who comprise the leadership under the leadership. The referral is made based on the topic of the legislation. That way, committees develop expertise in particular areas. You can learn all about different committees under List Committees. Committee work is one of the most important elements of the legislature, so be sure to check out the Committee Work tutorial video accessible from the Committee Work page. Once the legislation works its way out of committee, it will be placed on the calendar. To move from the calendar to the floor, the legislation must either be at the top of the calendar, or a special rule must be adopted to allow for consideration. Special rules are proposed by the Rules Committee, a very powerful and specialized committee, so be sure to get to know the membership. Once legislation reaches the floor, it is debated, amendments are considered, and a final vote is taken. If you are participating in a single-chamber simulation, your work is done and the legislation will proceed to the President's desk. If you are participating in a joint session, the legislation will be sent to the Senate, where a companion bill will need to be adopted before any further legislative action can be taken. You can check out the Senate by clicking on the Other Chamber in the sidebar and then Switch Chamber. This lets you see the Senate as a visitor to check up on their progress. If the Senate adopts identical language as the House version, the bill will be enrolled and sent to the President for signing. If the versions differ, a conference committee will need to be organized to iron out the differences. The resulting compromise must then be returned to both chambers for approval, and then finally to the President. To review, legislation is submitted by the members directly to the floor. It can be viewed via the clerk. The Speaker refers it to a committee for review. The committee reports it to the floor, where it is placed on the calendar to await action. A special rule is adopted allowing for consideration. Then the whole House votes and awaits for action by the Senate. Any differences are resolved between the House and the Senate in conference, and the final enrolled bill is sent to the President. If you can understand this flow, you are well on your way to mastering the legislative process. Now let's focus on some of the remaining tabs in the sidebar. Under Tutorials, you will find the instructions you need to be successful in LegSim. The rules of the game provide detailed explanations of how the House works in the real world and in LegSim. There is no single greater advantage than understanding the rules of the legislature when trying to achieve your agenda. Next is the Members tab, where you can interact with others and change your own profile. You can send letters to other members as well as read letters sent to you via the mailbox tools. If your instructor decides to use LegSim to distribute and collect assignments, you can access those by clicking on My Assignments. We've already discussed committees, but you should know that if you're asked to request a committee, you can do so under that tab. Below the Committees tab, you'll find Organizations. Organizations are collections of members organized around particular topics or philosophies. You can join as many caucuses as you like, but you can only join one party. If you don't find a party or caucus you like, you can always create your own. Being a member of an organization allows for easier communication and coordination in achieving your common goals. The Clerk tab, as I mentioned before, is home to all the records of the House. In addition to finding legislation via Search Legislation, you can find pictures of your fellow members under the Pictorial Directory and learn about issues that are important to them under Issues and Interests. Finally, way at the bottom is the Instruction tab, where you can find instructional resources. Be sure to check with your instructor whether this information will be relevant for your course. Okay, let's switch gears away from the sidebar and look at the rest of the LegSim interface. Above your desk is the navigation bar, which contains tools enabling quick movement around LegSim. The My Interests drop-down menu categorizes personal resources, such as committee assignments, for easy access. To the left is your name, which helps make sure you are logged in as yourself and not as one of your colleagues. Clicking your name will always bring you back to your desk. The Log Off button, Refresh button, and Back button all work pretty much how you'd expect them to. To the right, but outside of our view, is the chat client, which I describe in more detail in a different tutorial. For now, just know that it is a powerful tool for communicating with colleagues in real time. If you can't see the chat tool on your own browser, you may need to maximize your browser window, or your instructor may have disabled it. We're almost done with the overview. Just a few last things to cover. First, your desk, which I showed you at the start of the video, is an amazing tool and you should take a few minutes to familiarize yourself with it after this tutorial. Most of the tools I just described can be accessed from your desk quickly and on an as-needed basis. For example, when a vote is being taken, you can cast your vote directly from your desk. Second, LegSim has lots of additional online help to assist you in understanding the simulation. In the upper right-hand corner of many boxes, you'll find various online help icons. They come in 3 flavors. The blue question mark icon represents a help tooltip, which describes basic how-to information. The film strip and speaker icon is an online video, like the one you're watching now. The chalkboard icon contains contextual information, such as strategy tips or scholarly resources. You will also occasionally find orange RSS feed icons in the same spot you find the online help icons. Clicking an RSS icon adds the feed to your events and updates list on your desk, which is a great way to keep up to date on the developments of items which are important to you. I've covered a lot in one video, and you should feel free to watch this again if you want additional review. Some concepts may not be clear until you get into the work itself, so consider watching this tutorial again once you're a ways into the process.